Now it reckons that we are streaming, that we are live, and it also reckons now we've got an excellent connection, which is really peculiar because I've done absolutely nothing. And actually, I'm looking at the kilobytes per second here, and it's looking good. So whatever it is, whatever's happened, yeah, I'm gonna say that it was an OBS problem as well as a BT problem, and by going back to default settings has actually helped solve the problem. So there we go. But we are live, and we are 2 hours late. Oh dear. There we are. I can see. I can see here. I can't see anybody in the chat though, which is odd, and it's actually not allowing me to. I've just deleted that. How have I done that? Help! I don't know what I've done.
If you don't know, I can't help you.
Oh, I don't know. I have no. Anyway, look, let's talk some Doctor Who, shall we? While we're here.
Yeah, might as well.
You know, I'm getting a little bit of buffering. Let's just talk Series 2, Doctor Who, David Tennant, 10th Doctor. Obviously, the first episode with David Tennant was obviously the Christmas Invasion. And it was our first real sort of introduction to him. We'd got a brief introduction to him in a small minisode that was done for, I think it was done for Children in Need.
Yeah, and the very end of the last episode of Series 1.
Yeah. And, yeah, I mean, obviously we had the regeneration scene, but we had a small, little mini-sode that was done purely for Children in Need, and it was just seconds after the regeneration. It was kind of like a little bit that went missing just before the TARDIS hurtles back to Earth. It was kind of a nice little moment though, because we would have had to have waited 6 months, something like that, before we got to see David Tennant as the Doctor. And instead of doing that, we ended up having this small little bit, this sort of taste of him as the Doctor. And I think that was a nice little thing for the fans, but I think it probably helped with him to have that time before stepping into the role.
Yeah, possibly.
And also the fact that the Christmas Invasion wasn't his first episode as well. I believe that it was his third. I think I'm not sure on that one. But I think he'd already shot a couple of scenes for other episodes first before doing Christmas Invasion. Do you remember seeing that clip? That it was like 10 minutes minisode?
Yeah, I do. In fact, I've got it somewhere on my computer.
Yeah. Do you remember the impression it left with you when you first saw it? Because I know that it wasn't a great deal, but I mean, it was sort of a discussion about going to Barcelona and then changing their mind and then going back to Earth, and him having a little bit of a problem with the regeneration. I mean, what were your first thoughts when you first saw David Tennant taking over? Because he was quite different to how we'd had previous Doctors.
Well, yeah. I mean, it was a whole new regeneration sequence to start with. I used to. I didn't say I avoid spoilers. Spoilers don't bother me. But the whole regeneration at the end of the first series came as a shock because I didn't know it was going to happen.
Yeah, I mean that's a big one, mate. I've got to be honest with you, because that was they announced really after Rose that Christopher Eccleston was leaving after the first episode, and I was like, what? He's only going to do one and done, and it didn't paint. And this is another discussion to have, but it didn't paint Christopher Eccleston in a good light, and that was not Christopher Eccleston's fault either. That was purely through the BBC. But yeah, I mean, you're right. It was a whole new regeneration sequence, and David Tennant steps into the role. Yeah, sorry, Chris, but I just wanted to point that out because Eccleston leaving after One and Done was a bit of a shock.
Oh yeah, definitely. Although by the way of finish, he's back again now, so which is nice. And then you had the mini-sode where they were going to Barcelona and not Barcelona, as you say. And it was weird because you didn't really get to see what sort of doctor he was going to be because he was having the weird regeneration, and of course, when you go into the Christmas invasion, he spends the first third to a half of it in bed in a dressing gown. So you didn't really get a taste of the doctor. I don't think properly. Until you saw him in New Earth.
Yeah. I mean, I've got to be honest. I think I kind of like I like the Minnesota. There's bits of the Minnesota that I thought did actually show something of his character, and it's the kind of the bit whereby he's like, oh, this regeneration's not quite working right, and he sort of buckles down and he looks at a button on the control panel and goes, oh, I haven't pressed that in a long time, and he clicks in. It just sends the TARDIS sideways, and I just thought to myself, oh, this is going to be fun. This is going to be fun. If this is the sort of Doctor he's going to be, and that kind of does play into the Christmas Invasion then, where he first steps out of bed. It's a build-up moment in Christmas Invasion. They are holding off. I think they knew what they had with David Tennant, and I just think that they were kind of holding off on sort of letting us know, because it was very much a. I don't want to say it was a surprise, but they knew the guy had a lot of charisma, and I think that that was coming across in a massive amount on screen. Because in particular as well, when we're talking about something like Christmas Invasion, you're right, he spends a lot of time in bed. And I'm just going to bring this over here, just so I got reference. Because I'm going to bring up some of the episodes here. We'll have a quick chat as we go through these. I'm sorry if you're in the chat. I've somehow managed to knock chat off on my YouTube, and I have no idea how.
I've got it up. No one's commented. Although I have had a message from Luke Koza privately saying I've got a bit of an echo on my voice, and we are buffering quite badly again. But it is what it is.
Yeah, I mean, we'll have to deal with these issues as they are. I mean, yeah, I've got YouTube saying that it's not receiving enough information, and I'm just getting a little bit fed up with it. So yeah, we just plow through it as best as possible. But sorry, let's just getting back to what we were talking about there. Yeah, I mean the Christmas Invasion it's obviously like Rose is returning home, and obviously spending Christmas with Jackie as well, and being reintroduced to Mickey, and of course this is following what happened at the end of Part of the Ways. And I think there's a lot of stuff still left open in Part of the Ways. What had happened to Captain Jack, which was something that didn't get resolved till much later. There were a lot of loose threads. They could have gone in a lot of directions following that. And I'm kind of glad that they didn't follow up. I'm kind of glad that it was more of a he escaped and now they're back to being an on the run type of story. I mean, they could have just gone, all right, we need to find out what's happening with Captain Jack. We need to find out what's happening. Now the Daleks have been destroyed. What's happening with that Earth? And they didn't. They literally just went, no, let's just follow the Doctor instead.
Yeah.
And that was kind of good. It also introduced us to a follow-up character in Harriet Jones, who is now Prime Minister. And this is a question for you, Chris. Was Harriet Jones right or wrong?
Right. If I'm thinking, like a sensible person, then she was wrong because they were retreating. And really, it's pretty poor to shoot someone in the back.
Yeah.
From a they might come back standpoint, absolutely, she was spot on. I'm quite ambivalent about that. I can see why it's wrong, but I'm not sure I wouldn't have done the same thing in her shoes because they almost had was it a third of the population on top of buildings about to jump if they wanted to. I mean that's quite a lot of people worldwide. So yeah, I probably would have done the same thing.
Yeah, I mean there was I was asked by somebody before about, because they wanted me to do to write a short story about it was supposed to be like a follow-up Torchwood story, and basically what it was going to be a Torchwood story that wasn't centered around Torchwood, but actually a group of people. It was kind of like Linda, but a sort of a Torchwood version. And basically, it's a couple of people who had something happen to them, and they were now taken up because there was no Torchwood anymore. That they were kind of taking up the whole thing of investigating. And at the end of the story, the alien basically they come across an alien, and they get to send him home. They finally get to open up this dimensional portal to send him home to his people. And as he's walking through the portal, the lead character pulls out a gun and shoots him as he's going through the portal. And, the other members of the team are like, what the hell did you just do that for? And it's just like, well, we don't know. We've only got this person's word for it that, they're not going to return and invade. And it's like, yeah, well, what message does that send? You've just shot him in the back. He said, well, it says that we're killers, that we're dangerous, that we are not people that you want to invade. I was like, I don't know if it's right or wrong, but it's the only solution I have. And I think, in terms with the Harriet Jones situation as well, I see the same thing. It's that it's not a right or a wrong thing. It's literally the only solution she has. Like with the doctor can afford to make sort of morality choices, whereas if you're not in a position of power, you don't have that choice. And I think with what they had gone through, being victimized like that, with what the Sycorax had done, yeah, I'm not sure having a choice in. I don't want to call it revenge. I want to call it of making a point. Of you attacked us, eye for an eye kind of thing. So even if you're dealing with a benevolent force, you're kind of going to be still stuck in the situation of, well, we don't really have that much of a choice in the matter.
No, and that, viewers, is why we've not been visited by aliens that we know about.
It's just purely down to the fact that we have no, our go-to strategy must be defense first.
Yeah.
That's just it. But anyway, so that's Christmas Invasion. We get a couple of moments in that, whereby obviously we get the Santa suit androids with the thing, obviously the Christmas tree. I don't know where you stand with that. I really don't. It's a cringe-worthy moment, I think.
Well, it is. The Santas and the Christmas tree. If they weren't in the story, wouldn't really make much difference.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, you can take them out. I think they're just thrown in as moments of danger.
Yeah, the moments of festive danger. That is literally it. They're not.
Yeah.
I'm struggling to remember what the big tin Santas.
It's just a preamble of what's to come.
But why? And why the tree as well? It's just.
I think the tree was just a bit of fun, and look, there is a lot of tongue in cheek in that.
I get that. But when you're looking back, at the time, on Christmas Day, it's like, ho ho ho, spin spin spin. Yeah, that's brilliant. It's Christmas, but you go back and watch it now, not at Christmas, because after the bit with the Christmas tree, you've got all the bit with Harriet Jones on the spaceship, the Doctor having his tea infusion that wakes him up, and then you got the sword fight and the orange and all that sort of stuff. And then it goes back to Christmas at the end when he chooses his outfit, and then he goes and has Christmas dinner with the Tylers, and Mickey and that. But that whole in between bit from where the Sycorax ship shows up to where David Tennant says to Harriet Jones's aide, doesn't she look tired? That whole bit could have been anywhere in the series. There was no festive about that at all.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's just true. I mean,
don't get me wrong. I think it's a great episode, but it's like they wrote a story and then they thought, we've got one story too many. How can we make this suitable for Christmas? I know, Christmas trees, Santas, and a Christmas dinner. Done.
It's weird to think though, because before really Christmas Invasion, I don't think there had been Doctor Who Christmas centric shows.
There was one Hartnell one, wasn't there?
Yeah, no, they had done one like way back, but I mean most of the stories weren't. They'd never really sort of done a Christmas story, and that's one of the things that led me to the idea of, I don't know why they keep making the Christmas special centered around Christmas when what you really want is a Christmas special that's just a special, because it got in the way of stories now and again, whereby you would have the next Christmas special, which would be around Christmas time, then the next Christmas special would be around Christmas time, and then the next, and you're like, where has this been the entire time I've been watching Doctor Who? And why does it keep happening? Like, I get it, it's on Christmas because we were all sitting down having Christmas dinner. I get that, but can't we just have a it took us until I think the return of Doctor Mysterio.
I was just about to say that one of my favourite Christmas ones is the return of Doctor Mysterio, because it's not really a Christmas one.
I mean, it just could have been. You could have had a Dalek invasion. You could have had anything. You could have just been set on another planet. You don't have to make everything about Christmas. And of course, now we don't have a Christmas one. We have a New Year's Day one, which I still haven't seen. But
no, I haven't either.
But there we are. Let's move on. New Earth. We get to visit, essentially, Swansea Bay. The Goa, which has a look. I don't want to rag on the effects work here, but they could have done. I think they could have done a little bit more to sell New Earth, other than just do a digital matte. It would still look nice, and I think the work still looks good. The CG work for Cassandra, I still think looks brilliant, though.
Yeah. I'm wondering though, with what you're saying about Swansea Bay and that. If you didn't live in South Wales and you didn't know that was Swansea Bay, it might look a little bit better. But because you know the location so well,
it's not that. It's the way that they use it. Like they're looking off Worm's Head, and look, I've scouted Worm's Head myself. Right, it's a stunning place to film. Right, it really is. It's got some great features. It's a fantastic location. You've got these great cliffs. There's a little sort of boathouse halfway down the cliff as well, which looks like something out of a series of unfortunate events kind of thing. It's a fantastic place, but they didn't use it to its full potential when they did the digital matte. They literally put the digital matte on the horizon because it was easier for them to matte to, as opposed to they could have put New York, they could have sunk it into the sea. They could have had this whole structures coming out of the ocean and things like that. If you look at it, it kind of looks like a two-dimensional image just stuck to the screen, instead of looking like it's actually integrated into the ocean. That's all it is. But look, we're dealing with 16-year-old or 15-year-old mat work that was done on a TV budget that was done in a week.
Yeah.
You know, so I don't. And again, the work that they did for Cassandra, I think, works a hell of a lot better than most of the digital work in there. We get cat people in New Earth, the nurses who are doing something underhanded.
Face of Bow makes a return.
Yeah. Where are you with the cat people? Because I know most people got their own opinions as to whether or not you should do sort of animal-faced people. Some people like it, some people don't.
They looked fairly effective. I mean, the prosthetic work and the makeup and that was pretty good. They looked like cat people.
But I mean, yeah, but they looked very cat-like. I mean, they didn't look people-like. Like, you know, they just had faces of animals. They didn't really have any sort of, the sculpt was very much that of a cat. Like, had they done the stage show Cats, that's what they would have done.
No, that would have been terrifying.
As opposed to, like, with what they did with Cat from Red Dwarf, whereby he's a Felis Sapien, which is a similar sort of thing, I guess, whereby they stripped away the cat stuff and left him with the basic sort of, with the eyebrows and the slick back wig and the teeth and, all that sort of stuff. Whereas these were just sort of like cat faces, like if you've gone to a fancy dress shop, bought a cat mask and just stuck it on, which they did do for some of the extras.
I didn't mind it. It kind of depends how it's done. I mean, what nowadays with the furry culture, it's a little bit more creepy. But 16 years ago, it was like, oh, that's clever. They look like cats. At the time, I didn't mind. But yeah, it is a bit. I don't know if it is creepy though, because they're not dead-eye animals. They've done the makeup in such a way that people were able to emote through the prosthetics and that. So the eyes and the way the mouths moved and that was pretty good.
I know.
Put me on the spot. I liked them. I liked them. I thought they were pretty good because we see another one again, don't we? In Gridlock with Ardlo Hanlon playing one, and it looked just as effective then. I think it was done in a way that wasn't creepy or cartoon-like. It was done straight as if they were real.
I mean, I know one of the things that made when they applied that makeup, I know that they had to emote very aggressively under the makeup just to get movement. So raising the eyebrows like that would just get you this little sort of movement of the prosthetic. So anytime they had to sort of emote wearing that makeup, they had to go extreme, just to get you an expression out of it. So it is very difficult, and they were lucky in a way that they left their eyes open, so that there was a bit of extra expression they could do, but it was kind of dead around the mouth because they couldn't do a lot there. So they had these sort of cherub cheek sort of cats.
The thing is, because they were physically there, nowadays they might try and cut the budget by maybe having one or two hero cat people, but all the rest being CGI. And you know as well as anyone, CGI only ever looks good in the first couple of years it's made, and then it dates as things move on.
But I think that the makeup looks pretty good. I'm just wondering about the style of it. I think maybe I would have gone with something a little less cat-like. Still looking like a cat, but I mean, we had, and this is a strange thing to compare it to, but if you go back in Doctor Who, 13, 14 episodes.
Survival by any chance?
Yeah. And then you end up with cat people there as well. So, and they were a bit more big-headed, I guess. The makeup was larger, but I find them more creepy because they were less like people. If you see what I mean, they were more animalistic, and I think that's what I mean. These cat people were cats, but people, and instead they should have gone a little bit more, either gone away a little bit away from the cat, or a little bit more towards a human being. You know.
Yeah, I mean, for all we know, the production team were basically briefed. Look, just be careful. We don't want to get sued by Doug Naylor. So I mean, they might have done it for that reason. I didn't mind it because I thought they were done well enough. I'm not always a fan of that sort of thing.
The makeup, I think, was very effective. I think the makeup was very successful. I'm just curious about the actual features, the actual look of the makeup itself, as to whether or not you liked it or didn't like. Having it look like you just took a cat's head and just stuck it on a person, like as if you photoshopped it.
Well, in that case, I liked it. Then it did. I quite liked it.
Yeah, I'm not so keen. I would have liked something a little bit more alien. Because again, this supposed to be alien cats, so I think I would have gone a little bit more down that route. And obviously we get the Doctor being the Doctor towards the end of the episode, whereby he actually cures people. It's sort of a big scene where he slides down that elevator shaft. It's a good thing that futuristic elevator shafts, 30 what was it, 30 centuries into the future, still use cables.
Yes, it's a good job they didn't go to like air compression and anti-gravity. Yeah,
he'd been screwed.
If it's anti-gravity, he'd have just walked down, wouldn't he?
No, it wouldn't have worked like that.
If they can make cat people, they can make invisible staircases.
Find out when you get to the bottom that it just doesn't work. But we get the Doctor being the Doctor. And then following this episode, then we move on to Tooth and Claw. Where
hang on a minute. Hang on. No, because you've started me off now talking about cats. It's like I didn't see a single litter tray. So I mean, how people were these cats? So anyway, Tooth and Claw.
Yeah. So Tooth and Claw, we go to the other end of the spectrum. We've just done cats. We're now doing dogs. But this one's a CGI.
This is a strange episode because it starts off with some sort of weird Buddhist martial arts monks with bow staffs, and then it's werewolves and Queen Victoria.
Yeah.
David Tennant using his own accent and Billy Piper being annoying.
I mean, they obviously they were using real life events with Queen Victoria as well, because she survived several assassination attempts. So this was just kind of like what if one of them was an alien invasion? This one is the one that bugs me though, and you know exactly what I think. You know exactly what I'm going to say here. They've got a werewolf in the story, and it's just an alien werewolf. Like, why is it not just a werewolf? Why is just a werewolf not good enough for Doctor Who?
Because Doctor Who's sci-fi spacey, isn't it?
But you can still have that. I mean,
I know. I agree with you. I'm just looking at it from someone else's point of view, and it'd be like, yeah, but Doctor Who science fiction's got to have spacemen in it.
Yeah, I mean, you could have still had spacemen, but why couldn't the werewolf just be a werewolf? Like, I don't get it. I don't understand it. I don't know why. Because the solution would have been the same. The end result would have still been the same. Nothing would have. The only thing that would have changed is one bit of dialogue, which made it go, "Oh no, it's from outer space." To it's actually a werewolf. These things exist on your planet. You need to be aware of this. Because it could have been a dying species. It could have been an offshoot of evolution. It could have been. There's so many things they could have done with this story. And look at the gates that could have opened.
Yeah.
Opening a world of vampires, werewolves, mummies, zombies, all this stuff, and you could have used this as a catalyst to have gone, actually, here's a whole other story. And even then, we recently watched the episode Demons, which again went back to the whole, it's an alien, it's a demon, but it's an alien, but there's nothing saying that you couldn't have helped, had something like that help tie in to the fact that actually this caused some sort of evolutionary thing back in the day that has left, some genetic markers that cause these weird defects. And there's a whole slew of stories there which they could have done.
So what you're saying is opposed to saying it came from outer space, you'd rather they say it came from the Outer Hebrides.
Yeah. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with here's the problem I've got. Every single week that they would do Doctor Who, it would always land in London, in England, and every single week it would set a problem that was always there, no matter what. By saying this came from somewhere that was on Earth, you've got an option of landing in 18th century Russia. You've got an option of landing in Tehran. You've got an option of landing in, the Galapagos Islands. You've got an option of landing elsewhere other than just in this one place in this one time all the time, over and over. It causes by saying it comes from this one place, it's the same solution all the time. You no matter how far you tick down that list, by the time you get to the bottom tick box, it's always, and it was aliens, tick. There's no need to do that. You're limiting, you're creating your own pigeonhole and putting yourself in it. And going, well, look at this box. Well, okay, yeah, it's aliens. It's an aliens box. And by doing that, you've totally shut down your storytelling. You've wrapped everything up into a nice little bow, but who cares? I mean, there's so many other things you could have done, and then you can't now because you've just put it into you've crumpled it up into this one parcel and gone, there we are, there it is. Yeah, that's what it is. And I think that's what bugs me with Tooth and Claw. I like the episode. I think again, it's a bit bizarre, and it does give us the start of Torchwood. That's all very good, and of course, we've got a brilliant Queen Victoria, which was oh God, her name escapes me now. It blanks me. Oh.
I can't remember her name either.
Yeah, it was one of those stories whereby they could have really opened up the doors to Doctor Who and they ended up closing the door instead. There we are, Tooth and Claw. Again, same resolve, good resolve.
So I'm going to find out who played Queen Victoria.
It'll be absolutely. Yeah. Oh, I can't.
It was Pauline Collins.
Yes, it was. Of course it was. Yeah.
There's only one other person that can play Queen Victoria properly. And that is Miriam Margolyes. Is the only other person who can successfully play. And Miriam Margolyes is a national treasure.
But you couldn't put it in Doctor Who. They couldn't censor it.
Yes, you could. Yeah, you could. Late night Doctor Who.
She was only one or two movies of Harry Potter. We can't make this R-rated. Moving on, next episode of School Reunion, whereby we get the return of some former companion of the Doctor's in the guise of Sarah Jane Smith, played by Elizabeth Sladen.
No, correct title, Elizabeth Lovely Sladen. Get it right.
And of course the return of K9, a follow-up episode to K9 and Company.
There you go.
Yeah. It very much was a follow-up episode to K9 and Company, and I think a lot of people don't realise that, but it actually is referenced by the 10th Doctor that it is a follow-up to K9 and Company, because he actually says, well, it's K9 Mark III. And the only time it was ever K9 Mark III was when he dropped off K9 to be delivered to Sarah Jane, because the other one was still, or had been destroyed in the events in Doctor Who. So that and Sarah Jane never actually met K9 while she was in the show.
No.
So the only time she ever did meet K9 was when Mark III was dropped off at her aunt's house. So, and the fact that she was already doing investigating in K9 and Company played into the fact that she was an investigator in School Reunion. So, yeah, lots of tie-ins there. And of course, you got Anthony Head playing the school headmaster.
Whose correct title should have been Anthony, should have been Doctor Who Head.
It doesn't like, and I'm just putting this out there, right? But don't you, when you say Anthony Head, don't you think like his name is missing the Sir? Like if you say
Sir, yeah, you're right, yeah, Sir Anthony Head. Yeah.
I mean, isn't that just like a natural thing?
Yeah.
If you say like Sir Anthony Head, it's just like, oh, no, that flows, that works. Anthony Head is kind of missing something, like Mr. Anthony Head. It doesn't quite work. If you say Sir Anthony Head, and it sounds normal. It just sounds like, and he's not even a knight.
So you know when you got your different degrees of separation, I know someone that knows him, and as being mates, they just call him Tony.
Yeah.
So
No, but I mean, naturally, from a just a linguistic point of view, it doesn't sound normal to say Sir Anthony Head.
Yeah, it does. And he should get that for his services to coffee anyway.
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely. Oh dear.
No, actually, I'm joking. I actually think Anthony Head is a superb actor.
What I think is great about Anthony Head is that what a lot of people don't realise is that he's a singer. He's a bit of a metalhead, in fact. He likes his sort of biking and leather jackets, and he's completely different. Most people associate him with sort of Giles. From Buffy, whereby he's more of a librarian type of deal. But I mean, you know, he's got piercings and he's got, you know, he's got his rocker about him. He's very much a 70s rocker. I mean, that's
I'm not someone that was a big fan of Buffy. As in, I watched the film, tried to watch the series, couldn't get into it. To me, if I see Anthony Head and everything, he's always Paracelsus from Warehouse 13 for me, because that's what I know him from best, and he was a right git in that.
I mean, yeah, Warehouse 13, love Warehouse 13. Saul Rubinek, one of the best actors I have ever seen. Saul Rubinek is an incredible actor. But yeah, I mean, it's getting off subject, but yeah, I mean, Anthony Head though delivers a great performance in School Reunion.
Because see the thing before we get off the subject of Anthony Head. There's certain parts in this where he camps and hams it up a bit with the faces, but it's perfect. He does it exactly where it needs to be done. Whereas some people ham everything, he just hams those little moments to make them more expressive, and that's one of the great things about him and why it was such a good turn in School Reunion.
I was asked one day actually, because we were doing, we were talking about the failed Knight Rider series, and they were like, "Oh, what would you do?" And it's like, "Well, I'd reboot Knight Rider, just reboot it from the ground up, do the 1982 version, just reboot it completely." So and Anthony Head was kind of like, "Oh, this is the guy who would cast as Devon Miles. This is
that work.
He would be the new. I mean, to me, it would be between him and Chiwetel Ejiofor. There's only two people I would ever consider putting into that role, and he was one. You know, Michael Knight though was going to be my choice for Michael Knight was going to be somebody like Stephen Amell. So
really, I'd have just recast the Hoff. There's no one else. It don't matter. There's no one else. I would have recast the Hoff.
You couldn't really have the same title sequence. So, young Loner would just be like, well, he's just a loner.
I would have recast the Hoff, and I'd still use an 82 Firebird SE or Trans Am SE, whatever it was. No, I know what you're saying, but
No.
Yeah.
I mean, like he would have been one of the people that I would have definitely thrown into the cast as Devon Miles for sure, because I think he's just got that about he's got an air of authority about him, And I think that's, I don't want to say like, that worked towards him in school reunion whereby he's playing the principal, but I think there is that about him, that he's got a sternness. But he also comes with the presence. We were talking about Roger Delgado recently as well, who has a similar sort of thing, whereby he automatically comes with his own sense of authority, which I mean, Roger Delgado described himself as being satanic looking with eyes that can cut through any man. So that's a bit of a different thing with Anthony Head. Anthony Head has got a 10-mile stare on him, mind. I'll give him that.
And he's definitely got screen presence as well.
And James Masters from Buffy as well, who also shows up in Torchwood. Actually said he learned so much from acting from watching Anthony Head on set, because he said he was going in there and he was a seasoned actor. He'd been acting for like 20 years, and he'd gone into Buffy and he was like, oh, I know who I am, I know what I'm doing, I'm playing Spike and I'm gonna be like, oh yeah, I'm great. And then he was watching Anthony Head act and he's just like, gee, I know nothing, I need to go to school here. Because Anthony Head was used to acting for the camera instead of stage, and they two different acting styles, and I mean he taught him a lot, and he says he's one of the best actors he's ever seen perform on in front of the camera, just made for it. But yeah, Tooth and Claw. Then obviously we get the reunion of Elizabeth Sladen. Where were you when you saw Sarah Jane Smith show up for the first time?
Well, naturally I was in love again. She's my favourite companion, so I was over the moon. We're not talking sort of like boyhood crushes now. I mean, seriously, I was over the moon because she's always been my favourite companion, and to see her again, and there was that moment where she comes out that door and the TARDIS is there, and the Doctor says, "Hello, Sarah Jane," and it was such a great moment, and to see her back as well, and she just was slipped back into it like that. She was straight away Sarah Jane again.
Yeah, and what was brilliant about it as well was like when she had left the show, and we're talking, how long had passed since, when was K9 and Company, 83?
Yeah, I mean, she left, when did she leave? She actually left. I mean, I know she turned up for the Five Doctors, but she actually left the show, when did Leela start? 76, 77, something like that?
I mean, she'd been gone 30 years.
Yeah.
From the show, she had the odd appearances. I mean, again, I think she was in Dimensions in Time as well. So she'd had odd appearances, but this was the return of Doctor Who, in a way that this was kind of the first time we got a return to Doctor Who, which went, actually, this is all part of the same universe now. When we said this is the 10th Doctor, we mean, it's not just the audience counting him as Doctor Number 10. This is the in-universe counting him as Doctor Number 10 as well. And then we got the return of K9. And I remember an interview with David Tennant talking, I want to say he was talking to Jonathan Ross about K9. And they were like, oh, are you going to sort of judge him up? Is he going to be like, because he was coming off the back of things like Robot Wars and things like that. So they were like, are you going to do this, K9 that's going to be this newfangled thing? And David Tennant went, no, he's going to be a bit crap. So it's like, well, that's going to work. I can see that working. It's going to be 30th century technology, which looks very disco.
I don't know if you remember it, because I don't think the video's on your channel anymore. When we done school reunion, I believe Chandler was with us on that one, and we showed him the that Australian canine program. Well, they zhuzhed him up in that one, didn't they?
I mean, yeah, but I mean, I think what they were looking at was the fact that you know how the effects team that worked on Robot Wars went and redone the scutters for Red Dwarf.
Yeah.
So that they could actually mechanically move the heads properly. It was a multi-axis thing that and it was all remote control. Whereas the original ones were actually kind of a bit made out of a desk lamp and were actually just pulled along by string.
Yeah, and a glove like that.
Yeah. So I think that that's exactly what they were really referring to was the fact that they could zhuzh it up. But actually, what we ended up with was only 2 canines in the episode of School Reunion. One was the main one that was getting used, which was this rebuild, which had been done by the effects team. And the one that you get to see at the end, which when the TARDIS disappears, is actually the original K9. So that's a nice little moment where that bit where the TARDIS disappears and K9 is behind the TARDIS. That is the original K9 from the 70s show. But yeah, the one that's used in the episode, whereby it's a little bit tatty, a little bit rusty, and it's a little bit sort of beaten down and doesn't work. That's very much a new prop. Well, not anymore. He's 16 years old.
And on top of all of that, it's a pretty bloody good episode as well.
Yeah, we got the Krillitanes as well, which obviously make reference to the Time Lords. We get the first real sort of reference to the Time Lords in this, as to talking about what the Time Lords were like, and obviously the acknowledgement that other people knew about them. We got the Krillitanes as well, which bat-like things, a bit comic-y, a bit cartoony. Would you say?
They had a bit of a. I don't think the effects for the Krillitanes has aged that well. They look a bit. A bit fiberglass. They look like. I'll tell you what. There's a dinosaur park near where I live, like a zoo, and they've got a dinosaur park, but they're pretty good. When you get up close to some of the dinosaurs that aren't animatronic, they look very, very fiberglass that have been painted year in, year out, so they've lost all their texture. And the Krillitanes looked a little bit like that for me. They're a little bit sort of flat and look like they've been painted too many times. But they was all right. They was animated all right. It's just that they looked a bit plastic.
So next one we're moving on to is because that was School Reunion. The next one we're moving on to is our first one off planet. It's actually set in deep space, sort of.
Some bits.
Sort of. My favourite episode, or one of my favourite episodes, is Girl in the Fireplace with Sophia Miles. And, I love this episode. I make no bones about it at all. I love this episode. I think it's a brilliant episode of Doctor Who, because I think it's got everything. I think it's got everything for Doctor Who. It's got time travel, it's got spaceships, it's got robots, it's got portals to other places, it's got
sickening lovey-dovey stuff.
Only from her. I stick by this. Only from her.
Yeah, he would have reciprocated if he'd have got to her before she died. Spoilers.
It would have been great to have had her as a companion. And by the way, I did chat with. I want to make mention of this because I know this has been deleted. But I got to chat with Sophia Miles about School Reunion. School Reunion. That would have been interesting. Girl in the Fireplace. And I did mention this when we made the video, but this is kind of very special to Sophia Miles as well, because at the time when she was making this, a member of her family was very, very ill, and given that she is part Welsh, she spent a lot of time growing up in around Newport, where they were making the Girl in the Fireplace. She actually got to spend time going back and forth, seeing their loved ones before they passed away. And so it was kind of, she managed to, because of this episode, she managed to get time to spend with her family as well in and around this event, this whole thing. So it's kind of special to her, and she has no problems in talking about it. And I did ask her as well, if Madame de Pompadour, Renette, got to travel with the Doctor. Where would she like to go? And her answer to me was she would have loved to have gone to an alien planet. And I can see that. I could see, you can imagine Madame de Pompadour on an alien planet, and it would have been a good companion, I think. Because I don't know about you, but I'm really sick of having modern day Earth people as companions. And I think having somebody like Madame de Pompadour as a companion would have been like eye-opening. You know, in a positive way though, because to me that's what it's the same thing that when Victoria joined the TARDIS. You know, with Patrick Troughton, she had no idea what a mobile phone was. She had no idea what technology was. She had no idea. You know, electricity eluded her. You know, it was this character whereby you could strip away all this stuff because you didn't need it. You didn't need, and it's what to me it's what worked well with Jamie as a companion, because Jamie didn't understand something, so but he ground it down to its basic thing. You know, it was a computer to Jamie was a box. It was a box that did stuff, and he didn't understand how it worked, but he understood what it did. And I think that's what worked really well with Madame de Pompadour as well. Madame de Pompadour was a very intelligent character, but wouldn't put up with technobabble bullshit. And so, you know, you can get that scene whereby, you know, Rose is trying to explain the time windows to her. And she's like, you know, what are you talking about? What are you talking nonsense? And she puts it in very simple terms of doorways. These are doorways to his world, because she breaks it down into simple understanding, and I think that sort of character works incredibly well in Doctor Who for any sort of story that you tell. That's why I think you should have an alien companion, because if you're going to explore humanity, you can't explore humanity by asking human questions. You need to look at it from an outside perspective.
Yeah, I mean, it is a good episode, but I think it gets pedestaled a bit too much. But you know, for the right reasons. I mean, you know, she was terrific in it. It is a good story. The baddies in it, like the Clockwork droids, they are superb. That's probably some of the best design they've had in the modern era of Doctor Who. But
I love them.
Yeah. The only unfortunate thing about this episode is the previous one had Sarah Jane Smith in it, and I think you can't. That's tough to follow for me personally. But yeah, it was still good.
The end of the episode. We've got to talk about the end of the episode. You know, the Doctor finally gets things in order. He's really, really happy. He's finally got back to where he was going. He's going to be back. He's like, pack a case. We're on our way. He gets back, and of course, the sad reality of Madame de Pompadour is that she died at a very young age, and he arrives moments after she's passed, and wow, it's the first time Doctor Who delivers a kind of a kick in the stomach. It very much is. I don't even think there's another episode. Even from classic era, I don't think there's another episode that kind of delivers a punch like that. We get these sort of moral punches, and we get these ethical ones, and we get these ones where, you know, the Doctor's clearly disappointed in humanity, or disappointed in, you know, the Brigadier or somebody like that. But this is the first time you really kind of get a wallop of, oh, I didn't see that one coming.
You say that, but I mean, I kind of get a wallop at the end of Hand of Fear, Carwin.
I mean, she has to go home, but she doesn't die.
Yeah, but I know, but he doesn't go back and get her.
No, but had she died, then I would say that for sure.
She wasn't back in it until 2006. She might as well have died.
Well, no, she was back in it in the Five Doctors.
Don't spoil my moment. No, it does. No, it does. And the other thing I like about it as well is I don't think that, if I remember correctly, the Doctor never realises that the ship he'd landed on was the Madame de Pompadour, and that brings the story together, and that is why it's a good story.
Yeah, I mean, this is the issue. He never does. Only the audience is aware that the ship is called the SS Madame de Pompadour. All of this gets kicked in the nuts in the episode Deep Breath. Because they redo the Clockwork Men, except they're not the Clockwork Men. They're similar shenanigans afoot. And then when you realise what's going on, it has the name of the ship, and it says sister ship to the SS Madame de Pompadour. And you're like, why would you do that? Like, oh, yeah, and the Doctor knows. And I said, no, the Doctor doesn't know. What's brilliant about this episode is that he never knows. He doesn't work it out. I mean,
they definitely dropped the ball with that one.
They shouldn't have done it. Anyway, moving on. Next episode, Rise of the Cybermen. We'll cover this in both Rise of the Cybermen and Age of Steel, where Trigger shows up
with a team of Tony Starks.
Yeah, we got John Lumick, who is this eccentric billionaire in an alternative reality, and he basically is looking for a way to survive. And
just like his broom.
Just like his broom, yeah. He replaced the handle and the head a few times, and now he's ended up with a Cyberman. This as a standalone universe story, I don't mind as a Cyberman story, because I can accept parallel universe Cybermen not looking like my Cyberman. That's just, it's not a sticking point for me. As a one-off, it's not a sticking point, because I think that it was done very well, and because it's an alternative reality, you can get away with a lot more.
Yeah, I mean, I would have preferred it had it have been an alternate reality Mondas that they'd gone to by accident. That would have been different. Whereas the Old Marinus, where the Cybermen had still developed, but it was all to do with John Lumick instead. So. But it is what it is. It's still a pretty good episode.
I mean, to me as well, I think what works for me with the Lumick design is that it is very clunky. It looks very sort of chunky, clunky prototype, sort of year one Cybermen. Which I mean, I don't get why when they do the repeats of bringing them back, whereby you get these sort of I mean, to me, they're unsophisticated. They even when they sort of modernize the armor, they're unsophisticated, and I think it misses the point of what a Cyberman's supposed to be, in many ways. But in an alternative universe, I don't see the problem in it. You also get Pete Tyler showing up, which we get this awful story with Rose. I don't like this story. She sees an alternate version of her dad, and she just can't get into her head that it's not her dad, even though she's travelled in the TARDIS for quite a bit now. She's seen her dad die. We had closure on that story in Father's Day. So I don't get Rose's reaction in this episode. I don't understand it.
No, she she goes totally out of character, because I mean, she had with the Ninth Doctor, like you say, in Father's Day, she learnt then why she shouldn't mess about with stuff.
Yeah.
And then she got to find closure with that, with the fact that she was the one that held him while he died, the mysterious blonde and all this sort of stuff, and it was all done. The way they played her off in this is like, is there anyone going through these scripts?
Yeah, it's a weird one. I mean, you kind of got a sort of reflection with Mickey and Ricky, and then of course Ricky dies, and Mickey kind of takes his place. But Mickey's had loss in his life.
Yeah.
That he clearly remembers, and obviously, like, he makes a comment when he meets his alternate universe Gran, whereby he makes a comment about the carpet and the stairs not being replaced, and it's something that he promised to do and he never did, and his Gran died from it. Well, this was kind of like his chance to correct something, and that's a different kind of take there to what Rose done. It's a very different take, because now you've got Mickey being effective. You've got Mickey gained some momentum in series 1 with World War 3, where he started to help along, and then obviously Boomtown, whereby he calls them back to Earth and all that. These are little moments, but this moment kind of went, no, Mickey's his own man. Mickey's very much his own man. We had a little bit in School Reunion, and a little bit in Girl in the Fireplace, but now it was kind of like, no, he's finding himself. I mean, to me, I thought it was a decent story, and then of course the end of it is obviously them going off hunting Cybermen, and obviously the TARDIS makes it back to Earth, been a very long way, and he drops off Rose back at Jackie's. Yeah, it's the problem with I think the problem with Rise of the Cybermen and Age of Steel is the fact that the Cybermen really don't rise, and the Age of Steel doesn't last very long.
No. It's more like the appearance of the Cybermen and the few minutes of Steel.
Yeah. I mean, given that's an alternate universe story, there's kind of like, there's no reason why you couldn't have gone, actually, we can't stop this. They could have, Age of Steel could have been the episode which went, there's cyber factories everywhere, and we can't prevent this. All we can do is survive this. We can run away, we can save as many as we can, but we can't stop this. This is not a thing that we can prevent. Cybermen were bound to rise, and in this universe, Earth is kingdom of the Cybermen. This is where they're going to rise from, and this is going to be the start of their new empire. And in this universe, we can do nothing about it. We've already lost.
It would have been an interesting take on it.
Yeah, but I mean, again, because I think, like, as a alternate universe story, it feels to me like the Cybermen are kind of shoehorned into this a little. That there are other things going on in the story, and they just kind of put there to give you an antagonist. Whereas I don't really feel until we get to. I mean, I've got to be honest with you. I think the only time we really get a Cyberman story is when we get to World Enough Time. Because I don't think we really have a Cyberman story. They just turn sort of monster of the week.
Yeah, they do a bit, don't they? It's literally wheel them out. They make stamping sounds. They get defeated, and that's it for another series.
It's the same problem with the Daleks, mind. I would say this: we haven't had a Dalek story for a very long time. Asylum of the Daleks is probably the last time.
Well, we don't know, do we? Because we haven't watched the last one yet.
Well, no, but I would say like Asylum. I mean, even Dalek as well. Dalek is a good sort of Dalek story, which deals with a lone Dalek. But Asylum of the Daleks is the only one whereby it's actually about the Daleks, about Dalek existence.
Yeah.
And even then, that's only sort of like through a keyhole. We don't really get a. We get a later one then with Davros. And of course, there's nothing wrong with having the megalomaniac Davros stories. I love those things. Why not? It's great to have, but it would be kind of nice to get a story that's actually about them. And I think World Enough in Time when we're talking Cybermen, it is about the Cybermen. It's about why these people had to do what they had to do. And I don't feel that with this. I feel like Lumic has to do what he has to do, but that's just because he's nuts.
Yeah, he's not all there, is he? And then, of course, he gets turned into a cyber controller, which is going to make him even more nuts because that's his feelings gone out the window.
I mean, look, the good bad guys for them to show up, and particularly when in the next Doctor. The fact that you've got this sort of Victorian age, centric storyline whereby the Cybermen show up, and it's only a small group of Cybermen that have apparently, survived or, arrived on Earth, and it's only a small, tiny group, which is like 6 Cybermen, but in Victorian times, it's devastating.
Oh yeah.
But
Steam Cybermen.
Yeah. But as for a Cyberman story, this was not Rise of Cybermen, Age of Steel, probably more centric on other characters. I would say.
Yeah, I mean, I always feel really that this is a story for Mickey because it's I know he's made other appearances. He appears later on in this series, but this is kind of like Mickey's swan song. It's saying goodbye to the character of Mickey. And I find this to be more Mickey's story than anything else, and that's not a bad thing either because Noel Clarke plays it to perfection. He's really good in it.
Following that, of course, we got The Idiot's Lantern,
which was a lot better than I remembered it was when we watched that.
I mean, it does draw some problems, some issues, mainly with the whole end, whereby he's climbing the tower and it's just like, just unplug it, just blow it up. If that's the issue, you shouldn't be able to resolve the situation with a stick of dynamite. And that was my issue with that, was the fact that the actual solve was, if you smash that thing, it's over. And that was it.
Yeah.
That was it.
So I'm going to have a look on my phone to see if I've still got my text file with a list I made for when we done that.
But yeah, it's. I mean, it's all centered around the coronation. It's Magpie's electronics, stealing faces, people going missing. It's a weird concept, but again, the real problem with the end of the episode is literally, if the Doctor had got a gun and shot the box, that would have been the end of the episode.
The Doctor's not allowed to just shoot people.
Not even people. It wasn't even a person. It was a box. It was like a video box containing the wire.
Well, yeah, all right. I'll give you that. But
if you remember the episode, she was trying to broadcast herself through the transmission tower at Crystal Palace, and again, the solution there is to pull the bloody tower down. I mean, it's that should not be the end. That should not be the end of any episode of Doctor Who. It's what makes Power 3 such a crap episode.
I thought the Power of 3 was well regarded.
I know. Is it Power 3 I'm thinking of? Is that the one with the little black boxes?
I can't remember what one that is now. I know the one you mean.
That's the one I'm on about. Anyway, the one with all the little black boxes show up. And the end of the episode is Matt Smith waves his sonic screwdriver at a screen. And that fixes everything. Same problem I got with Flatline.
Well, according to this, I haven't got my Doctor Who list anymore. That's quite sad. I've got the ever missing Doctor Who fucking cast list still, but not the not that one.
But anyway.
The
Idiot's Lantern. We get another Thunderbirds cast member as Mr. Magpie, who played Parker in Thunderbirds, following Sophia Miles, who played Lady Penelope Crichton Ward in Thunderbirds. So yeah, that's the end of that. I don't know.
Hang on. We need to add how good Maureen Lipton was in it. She's always valued for money.
Yeah. I mean, look, I think the cast was good in it. the father and the son relationship, which doesn't have it straightforward, which is this almost abusive relationship, even with his wife, and that story there. But again, these are characters that, you know, the secondary characters, and normally secondary characters in Doctor Who are pretty strongly written, but when you've only got 45 minutes to tell a story like this, you can't really, you can neither do any one of these stories justice because you have to move on.
Yeah.
And that's a bit of an issue. I don't really know if you've got anything else to add to Idiot Lantern. You know, the shop looks nice. I've seen the shop. It looks like a nice shop.
Idiot's Lantern, that's the one where they have their faces pulled off as well, isn't it? Yeah, I mean that was a nice effect for the time. I thought that was well done.
Yeah, it did explain how they still breathe, but or anything like that. But we'll leave that there. It's not really.
It is.
Yeah. We won't dwell on it. Not really sure why the wire doesn't just kill people when she absorbs them. I don't know, but we'll deal with that one when we come to it in a couple of episodes. But we got next up the Impossible Planet and the Satan Pit. Brilliant.
Yeah, these are pretty good episodes. I like. Well, let's look at the Impossible Planet part of it to start with. I like the cast. The black hole special effects still look good today. You got a really good cast, you know, quite a diverse cast as well. You got the traditional corridors beating up spaceship. But this looks like a Doctor Who episode. I mean, you could put a shot of the interior of that spaceship, and you'll either say, is that from the Alien universe, or is it just Doctor Who? And it's just got that look about it.
Yeah, and we get some great moments, particularly with Toby.
Yeah.
Don't turn around. You know, you've got that moment, and it's like, oh, okay, let's so this is going into proper creepy territory. We get the introduction of the Ood.
The Ood.
Yes. But we get some really nice horror bits in this, like where the Ood's translator says, you know, things like, the beast and the pit are awake. And it's like, what the hell? And then her phone rings, and she, you know, she answers it, and it's just like, you know, the beast is awake, and she throws the phone. You get these little, and the glitch on the screen where you see the guy turns away, and you get the beast with the horns on the hologram, and it's just a glitch for a second, you know. Those sorts of bits are like, oh, this is so good. There's some creepy shit happening here. We got, you know, the security guy. We got Scooty Minister getting killed by Toby. You've got all these things going on in this episode. It's just fantastic. There's a lot of really, 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 really good sci-fi Doctor Who here. And I do feel like with modern Who, there's a danger of it being too nice. That you know, people are killed by rays, you know, beams, or particle weapons, or things like that, and it's never cruel. Whereas I think with Impossible Planet and the Satan Pit, everybody's killed cruelly.
Yeah.
There's nothing nice about the way people die in this, and it's not done through necessity. It's done through malice. And it's different because, like, when a Dalek kills somebody, it's like a blast weapon. It's like exterminate, zap, and the person goes and falls, and that's it. Whereas and you can't really relate to that.
No.
Suffocating somebody, I think you can relate to. Everybody's at that moment in life where they'd be struggling for breath. So there's a moment of relation there, and that's what makes this horrific. Is that you can go, I know what that sensation's like. You know, and it happens to all of them. People die from being hurt, from being suffocated, from being blown out into space, from all these different things that go on. And then of course we get into the Satan pit as well.
Also, I was going to say you have them good moments where they open the protective covers on the dome on the main part of the ship and on the main part of the base, and you see the people floating off towards a black hole, which is it's really it's quite dark.
Yeah, it is, and but this is where I think this is more in my tone of liking for Doctor Who. This is why I used to like the older versions of Doctor Who, whereby you could have people shot with a gun, with a normal gun, so they bleed out slowly. They are in physical pain when they die. It's not just zapping it over. You can have people be knifed and stabbed, but you couldn't do that today because it's not PC. Well, screw PC. How the hell do you expect to tell a story to make it a talking point if you want to let us talk about it?
Yeah.
You can't, this is what people don't understand. When it comes to making a fantastic show or a fantasy show, if you don't show this thing, then people won't talk about it because they never saw it to talk about it. I mean, it's such an obvious thing. Like, you can stab somebody in a fantasy show because it's fantasy. And if you can't make the distinction between fantasy and reality, you need to go see a therapist. I mean, I don't get it. I don't understand it. Right? I get it that they don't want to show graphic violence on, at a TV time, which is considered to be tea time. Well, it's not at 7 o'clock, but I mean, whatever. It's not the same as where it used to be on at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, but 7 o'clock in the evening, it's a bit later on. I don't see any problems in why you can't show, you can't show blood. You can't show people getting beaten up. You can't show, what are you doing? You can show people getting beaten up all the time and watching a bloody episode of WWE. Monday Night Raw has 3 hours of it. Yeah, there's a point whereby you kind of think to yourself, why is it that these people have limited what you can watch? And basically what it comes down to is the fact that they have decided what you can watch. They have decided what you are entitled to see.
I know, mate. That's why I don't watch it anymore.
They've made the decision for you. As opposed to how it used to be, whereby they'd go do something and think, we might get complaints about this. Fine, get complaints, but do it. Don't cut your nuts off because you're scared of what people might say. At least people will be bloody talking about it.
Definitely.
And I think Impossible Planet: The Satan Pit is kind of one of the standout moments of modern Who for me.
Because it does walk the line of gritty realism, I suppose, even though it's set far in the future in space, and obviously the Ood aren't real, but even with all those fantastic science fiction, I know.
There we are. But anyway, Impossible Planet: Satan Pit. I think stand-up moment of Doctor Who for me.
So next up is Army of Ghosts, I believe.
Let's get through this. Come on. Love and Monsters. First 35 minutes, or first 30 minutes, totally different show to the last 15 minutes. I think that's fair to say. Because the actual idea of having Linda and Elton, and when you get that sort of relationship going on, and seeing Doctor Who from the eyewitness's perspective as opposed to the Doctor's perspective makes a very different show.
Yeah, it does.
It's very fresh. But they introduced Peter Kay, and
or as we now know him, Edge of the Cliff. I seriously hope he doesn't. I seriously hope he doesn't do anything dodgy like that and hurt himself. Now I've said that, but yeah, literally the program just goes straight off. I mean, that's another one. I'd forgotten how well they wove the initial story, and then literally. And literally just drove the bus into the ravine with an explosion. Yes.
Yeah, like when the second he shows up, the second he introduces himself, because you get all these silly bits whereby they doing, they started doing a little bit of Yellow, and just singing along and dancing, putting together a band and all that, but
it fit within the story what I would tell him.
And then it just went into just silly territory. They had a story that was going somewhere, and then they'd made the agreement of putting in a Blue Peter fan monster into an episode, and it just didn't fit at all. This did not fit with the Absorbaloff. Did not fit in this story.
I mean, they could have. I don't know how, but they probably could have found a different way to use the Absorbaloff in another story. But this one didn't need that. This one needed something.
This was more of a story about Elton trying to find out what happened the night he first met the Doctor, right? Because the first time he met the Doctor was as a child, where the Doctor explains to him that a shadow had escaped in his house and killed his mother, and the Doctor failed to stop it. That was the first time Elton met the Doctor. It was as a child. But he didn't remember that. So that's what this story was about. Had this played out in that way and kept the Absorbaloff out of the story completely, we'd be talking very differently about Love and Monsters. Because this would have been a story about Ursula, and about Elton, and about, obviously, the relationship between Elton and Jackie, which goes wrong. But it has to go wrong so he can fall for Ursula. I mean, it's just, this was such a good story, and literally Mr. Kennedy shows up and bang, wallop, totally gone.
It needed a proper gritty ending. Even if they'd have brought the Doctor back in somehow for something, it's just. It was a story that was set up so well, and then they just nuked it, and it was rubbish after that.
Literally. And again, you watch the first, because if anybody was to watch the first 20 to 25 minutes of Love and Monsters, they would be wondering what the hell we're talking about. If they hadn't seen the end, because they'd be like, this is brilliant. This is genuinely brilliant. This is what amazing character writing and character development in such a short space of time. You have these little montages. You have this backstory with Elton where he's doing all the webcam stuff. Funny enough, he has more success doing it than I do. But he he gets these little moments, and again the story with him and Jackie, because he's just trying to find the Doctor. But the mistake he makes there with Jackie is the fact that, I mean, part of it is on Jackie as well. But when the Doctor finally shows up, it's kind of all for nothing. It's literally just like not a great deal gets resolved. He tells him about the shadow, and he tells him about that, and it's kind of all done in 20 seconds.
And we get the highly questionable oral sex joke, don't we, with the paving stone? I mean,
and again, that's not how we should have ended. If you took the Absorbaloff out of this thing, you've got Linda, who are chasing monsters, Elton, who what's the name of the creature, the Hoex or something like that is called, whereby he's chasing after that. To be honest with you, the end of this should have been Ursula gets killed by the Hoex, and the Doctor can't save her.
I was just going to say the same sort of thing. If I'd have been writing that story and I'd had that good start, I would have kept the Linda team together. And I would have had them helping Elton.
It's a Scooby-Doo story.
I would have had them helping Elton track down the shadow monster that killed his mum. And then basically, I don't know if I'd have killed Ursula, but which I probably would have done. But you could have still killed off the members of Linda the same, but it would have been the shadow monster doing it, and Elton has to overcome that, and the Doctor helps him comes back, and where he was not quick enough to save Elton's mum, he was quick enough to come back and save Elton, but at the cost of all his friends. And that would have been another way of highlighting the danger that surrounds the Doctor.
I mean, the big difference, I think maybe if I tell you what I might have done, is not necessarily killed Ursula, killed off other members of Linda, maybe, perhaps, because it just highlights the dangers of monster hunting. But I would have left her, at best. Because what I might have done to highlight the issue of, because the show's called Love and Monsters, is that maybe I would have left her maybe disabled, and Elton having to take care of her, because it's a similar sort of thing, just not a bloody paving slap.
And Elton's, it was clearly shown with Elton's character that he would have taken care of her. He wouldn't have turned his back on her just because she became disabled.
Exactly.
So would have been a much better ending to the story.
And you kind of got a little bit of a happy ending with the closure. You just wouldn't have had Peter Kay hamming it up for 15 minutes.
No, and they still could have made the same sexual joke, but it would have had a lot more connotations with the fact that she can't walk anymore, as opposed to being a paving slab. But it wouldn't have been such a joke then. It would have been a poignant moment. It's like we've still got a love life of a fashion, but when you look at someone that is physically disabled, obviously they can't have the same sort of physical relationship as an able-bodied person goes about saying.
They still have the same feelings and emotions that everybody else does, and it's
of course they do.
Moment to nail that, because I think everybody at some point knows somebody who's disabled or living with disability or something like that. So it's a big issue to kind of put a pin in it that Elton loves her no matter what. And
it would have been a lot better than where Doctor Who has gone, where Doctor Who's gone of recent times, where they're telling you to think that, rather than leaving you to work it out for yourself and say, "Oh, Elton, what a top man he is," rather than now they basically say, "Look at him, he's brilliant," because that's what they do now.
They lead on the track. So that's Love and Monsters. Great start, terrible finish. There we are. Fear Her. Terrible start, terrible finish.
The middle one, not good either.
Oh, I don't even know what to say about this. I don't know. It's a terrible. It's uninspiring. It's a piss poor story. The directing on it, I think when we watched this, I think we was a little bit harsh on the girl that played. I can't remember the character's name, but the girl that played Chloe. And I think that was down to the director. It wasn't down to the actress. It was their first time acting, really, and they should have cast a more experienced actress.
They should have done. I think we was a bit harsh on her when we actually did watch her.
I wouldn't necessarily think it's down to the director to do the takes and to get the take that they want. So
and it's also down to the director to realise that if the actress isn't working out, as hard as it may be, say sorry, recast.
I mean, it's just. This is an episode really about nightmares, and you don't really get it. It's just people disappear, and it's not really. And you get the whole nightmarish thing with her father at the end, and it's just. But it was already over and dealt with, and it's like this is just.
I think we said at the time, if you're going to if you're going to insinuate that someone's father has been committing child abuse upon them, spell it out. Don't do it with scribbles on walls and chalk drawings.
It's a commentary on abuse, but it's just saying, "Oh, isn't abuse a bad?" Well, yeah. What's the argument? But where's the complexity in this? Where's the her father had died or something, as well. So it's not like he wasn't around anymore. But then it wasn't. It just made him a villain for the story without any complexity. There was no. This character has other things to it other than I'm just gonna get you, and that's all it was. And it was just like, well, isn't abuse bad? Where do you go with that?
Yeah, it's shocking. Thanks for telling us that. Well done. I hadn't realised.
Here's the Doctor carrying an Olympic torch.
I'll tell you what. If I mean, you know what I think of the last couple of series, that story and the way it's told wouldn't be out of place in the current regime, shall we say?
So that's for you. I got nothing else to add to that, really.
I doubt very much that I'm ever likely to watch that episode again, unless there's a specific reason I need to. I wouldn't. It wouldn't be something I'd watch for enjoyment of viewing.
As well, Fear Her is one of the episodes whereby I would actually put it lower than Love and Monsters, because at least
I would.
Has the first 20 minutes.
It has, and we've just rewritten the end of Love and Monsters successfully, so it's actually a good story now.
Next, moving on, Army of Ghosts, whereby we are first introduced to Torchwood, and it's a very different place to how the series looks. It's a very big, expensive government facility with, towers upon towers, skyscrapers filled with people, unlimited budgets.
Martha Jones's cousin.
Yeah, where the Doctor shows up and they're ready for the Doctor. There's obviously things going on whereby they are bombarding a fracture in space-time with a particle weapon to open it up even further, and it's caused these, as they say, ghosts to appear all over the planet. And the Doctor shows up and he's like, well, this is not a good idea. So there is also the Void ship in this, which looks like a giant Malteser. Just floating there in space. They apparently built the entire tower to reach it, because that's what it was, so they built the tower around it. And then it turns out we get the return of the Cybermen, but also
and Mickey.
Also, the return of Mickey, and the cliffhanger of the Void ship opening, and it being filled with Daleks, and it's the first time we're gonna get in Doomsday, the first time we ever get a clash between the Cybermen and the Daleks, and not the most excitable clash.
There's lots of CGI flying about stuff at high speed, but the Cybermen were full on Iron Man in this, weren't they? Flying about like that. Cybermen can't fly. Stop it! It's only just got used to Daleks being able to fly. Other than just saying elevate and hovering upstairs, all of a sudden now they're like the red bloody arrows.
It still makes me chuckle though. That when this entire huge battle's supposed to be going off outside, that they just stick to the inside of an office and all you can see is a laser beam going past the window every once in a while, and you never see anything of the battle. Like, it's just hilarious to me. It's proper Doctor Who on a budget, kind of. This is a fight. Where's the fight? It's going on out there. Look, isn't that horrible?
Yeah,
Yes,
but
it is.
yeah, but this is the series two-part finale. It shouldn't be like that.
Yeah, there's a point whereby they should have gone to the BBC and gone, look, give us an extra 50 quid for crying out loud. I mean, you know, there's plenty of things that they could have done to have improved upon this, I think. Also, again, we get introduced to the cult of Skaro, which is an interesting concept. The cult of Skaro, whereby you've got 4 Daleks that are engineered to think like other things other than Daleks, to try to think more like the enemy and to be able to underpin the enemies. And of course, you've got the Genesis arc as well, whereby that is a Time Lord prison that contains nothing but Daleks, which is brought with them through the void.
The other thing with the cult of Skaro, see, that's something else that doesn't really go anywhere for me. Because you've got
Daleks.
No,
it does. It does with Dalek Khan.
Well, Dalek Khan it does, which is the one that ends up looking like a scrotum in a suit. That's Dalek Sec, isn't it?
Yeah, Dalek Khan is the one that ends up lulling Davros into the whole situation with the planets. And he predicts that the Doctor will arrive and it will be the end of the Doctor, and he thinks, and then he turns around that actually Dalek Khan has foreseen the end of the Daleks and not the end of the Doctor.
It's Dalek Sec I'm thinking about, which kind of goes nowhere because when he becomes like a bipedal Dalek, it literally looks like a scrotum on top of a suit, and it just didn't work. I don't think.
Yeah, but that's going much later on. That's evolution of the Daleks. Daleks in Manhattan. So yeah, we get the end of this, and of course it turns out that the anything that's been soaked in void energy can be reversed, and so therefore we get this whole thing with the 3D glasses, and it's okay. It's okay. As a series finale, though, I mean, obviously the emotional beat there was to go with the fact that they were going to lose Rose. It's okay.
It's okay, and it's got a bit of a schmaltzy "I love you," and even though the Doctor don't say it, it's it's a bit cringy. Maybe not.
Takes it back to the alternate universe. Not sure how he knew that she was going to be there at that time.
Well, because obviously back during the age of Steel and Rise of the Cybermen, all that stuff she was doing about being his daughter. Obviously, it paid off. But yeah, plot armor, as you say.
Yeah, I mean, she ends up marooned in a parallel universe, and then of course we get the end then, whereby we get introduced to Donna Noble at the very end in a wedding dress.
Lots of people saying what? Well, 2 people saying what quite a lot at the end.
So that's pretty much it. Doomsday Army of Ghosts. It was okay. I remember it being better at the time watching it, but I think all the excitement sort of petered out when you realise this plot between the Daleks and the Cybermen happens all off screen.
It does. That really does lay it down.
That's the big nail in the coffin, is the fact that it's you can't do something like that and go, oh my god, there's going to be this massacre between the Daleks and the Cybermen, and we're not going to show it.
You can see the odd laser going past the window. So, maybe some distant echoing shouts of exterminator.
So that's pretty much that. That is series 2 of Doctor Who.
God, it seems ages ago we've done that now.
It does, doesn't it? Yeah. But let's have a look. Yeah, I'm going to go through this. Top episode for series 2, Chris. What's your top episode? I'm gonna put my neck out here and guess that you're probably gonna pick School Reunion.
Well, see, I'm choosing between School Reunion and The Impossible Planet.
Yeah.
Because much like Star Trek 5, when everyone's saying, "Oh, Captain Kirk's going to see God," and it wasn't God; it was just an alien that had been. Much is the same with Satan Pit. It wasn't Beelzebub himself or the devil. It was a demon-like creature that had been shackled
there.
But
he doesn't know. He doesn't know. David Tennant says, "You know, what do you think it was?" And he just says, "I think we beat it."
Yeah.
You know, he leaves it nebulous.
Yeah, he does. I'm going to give it to School Reunion, but it's very, very close. Behind it is the double episode Impossible Planet and the Satan Pit.
Yeah.
Very close. You know, you need a very small micrometer to measure the difference.
Yeah, I mean, like, again, similar sort of thing with me with Girl in the Fireplace. I point to Girl in the Fireplace as a really good example of an all-rounder. I think it's a brilliant episode because it's an all-rounder, because it does everything that you want from Doctor Who. Like, everything that Doctor Who has is in that episode. So that's great. But again, I gotta go with you with the same thing. Impossible Planet, Satan Pit. I think what that does in that story is it takes science fiction to a more conceptual level.
Yeah.
And it's well directed. It's off Earth. It's got a great looking set. It's got a great looking cast. I think that it's the standout of series 2. In fact, I think it's probably the standout of series 2 and series 1 as well. You know, because it, you know, as much as I love The Empty Child and the Doctor Dances, it's on Earth.
Again, yeah.
Just getting away from Earth is an automatic bonus for me. That's an automatic thumbs up. You know, we're not going to be on Earth. Well, good one. You know, and they're not on Earth. They're not in a quarry. 2 thumbs up.
Hey.
So that's Impossible Planet. So that's the best episodes, I think. And I'll go along with that. I'll say Impossible Planet, Satan Pit, number 1. Number 2, I'm gonna put in as Girl in the Fireplace. Oh, School Reunion though. Oh, that's neck and neck for me. Because I do love School Reunion, but I mean, you got the where you might have the lovey-dovey stuff in Girl in the Fireplace. You got the Krillitanes in School Reunion, and they're just working our way down, probably behind that New Earth, I guess.
I'd go with that New Earth. I would probably put Tooth and Claw right behind that, even though I know it's a space werewolf and not a werewolf. The bit with the big black eyes and that was suitably creepy.
I'm gonna push actually that down a little bit, Tooth and Claw, because I'm gonna go with Age of Steel and Rise of Cyberman before that.
I'm going to do them the other way around. This is why I was trying to find my list from when we done when we was looking at the episodes.
Then I do Tooth and Claw behind Age of Steel. And then of course it would be Love and Monsters, and then Fear Her, because I think Fear Her is probably the worst episode.
Yeah, you missed out the Idiot's Lantern.
I just didn't put it in there.
No. See, I'd put the Idiot's Lantern, Love and Monsters, then Fear Her.
Yeah. That'd be it. I think. I think. See, I don't know.
But are we classing the Christmas Invasion in with this lot? Because if we are,
we can do. The Christmas Invasion, I think, is probably going to be 3rd place.
I'd say so. Maybe 4th for me. I think I would go School Reunion. I'd go the Impossible Planet, Satan Pit, then School Reunion, then the Christmas Invasion, then Girl in the Fireplace. I think for me personally, I think you probably do it the other
around. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think so. I don't think there's much in it, but I think our bottom end is probably similar as well. I think Fear Her's down there at the worst of the worst.
Is that bad? I've had to dig a hole so I can put it lower.
But again, I don't know what the fix is to Fear Her. Aside,
Deletion.
Well, I mean, we don't really get any understanding of what the alien is. We just know that it wants to be a companion to Chloe, but what's its ultimate goal?
And then it just buggers off at the end.
And it's in a tiny little spaceship, which again, as we discussed with Demons, it's the most unimpressive. It's a good sci-fi concept, but you can never execute that successfully on a visual medium because it just looks totally unimpressive.
Yeah.
Even if you were to make it glowy and flashy and everything, it just looks, you can't go, well, this is the spaceship. Isn't that impressive? No, it's not. If it blocks out the sun, that's impressive. I mean, it just, I don't know. Yeah, it's not a good one at all. Again, Love and Monsters has its faults, mainly being Peter Kay stepping in and probably shouldn't have done that. No, they could have done the Absorbable off for a totally different episode. They could have done it for a Children in Need special, just a 10-minute bloody thing. That would have worked.
And that would have fit in better with the way it was designed by a 10-year-old. You know, I'm not being disrespectful. Obviously at the time when he was a kid, that guy had a fairly sizable imagination to come up with a monster and the way it dealt with people. I think one of the worst things about that was that they put Peter Kay in the suit, and the suit was. Well, it was worse than a lot of the stuff we've seen in the 70s.
It was green fat man with a bloody mohawk in a bloody leather thong.
I don't know where to go with that. It was like someone crossed Fungus the Bogeyman with one of Peter Jackson's orcs from Lord of the Rings, and then gave it to someone like Monty Python.
And it had very little in common with the actual original design.
Yeah. We discovered that when it was supposed to be about 30 foot tall or something.
Yeah, it was supposed to be more like a blob. And it was supposed to be 3 stories tall at least. And it was just like, well, this is what he designed, and they kind of they Doctor Who rectified it, and they beat it into submission, and it didn't work out. So
they basically turned it into a
what we can do on a budget.
A bad monster from Power Rangers or something like that. Well, that would have been on at the time. Yeah, it's just, it was crap.
I don't know. I think Goldar was a better monster. The putties, I think, were better monsters. I don't want to hand too much credit to Power Rangers, but yeah. I think they come up with something a bit more original than that.
I know it's slightly off topic. We shouldn't really have too much of a go at the Power Rangers because the original show that it comes from, it's a mashup of about 4 Japanese programs in it, and they've just kind of put them together and film some inserts. Yeah, that's not a good example, I suppose.
I mean, Super Sentai had been going for like 20 odd years previous. I think if you were to look at it now, I believe it'd be going altogether now about 55 years.
Yeah, something like that. I know it's been going a while.
Probably. Yeah, because Super Sentai started really in the 70s, I think. So maybe 45 years. So that may be more like it. Yeah. But yeah, they started a very long time ago. I mean, like they were using stuff like, cause I believe Zoids became the Megazords as well. So it was all sort of put together stuff. So yeah, But I mean, they made the best of what they had, and still better than Love and Monsters. So that's pretty much it. Overall, what do you think of Series 2 as an out-in for Doctor Who? Where do you see it, like, in terms of, was this a good showing? Did this make you more excited for season 3?
I think on the for the most part, I think considering Christopher Eccleston left so quickly, I think good old Dave Tennant was a revelation in the part. He came in. He came in and he owned it. He was a confessed Doctor Who fan. He played the Doctor. All right, we didn't get to all the silliness with Alonzi and all that at the time. But for this series, he wanted to play the Doctor, and he came in and he played the Doctor. I've got no complaints at all with David Tennant's portrayal of the Doctor here. It gets worse, I think, as it goes on, but that's down to writing again, not David Tennant himself. I think it was a good showing. Put it this way, I enjoyed the Eccleston series, and when they cast Tennant, I thought, well, this could be interesting. And I think it paid off, and to prove it paid off, people every time the Doctor regenerates now, ever since. Everyone always, or lots of people always say, can't he just regenerate back into David Tennant? So that's how popular. He's.
Do you want to hear something?
Go on then.
So we come up onto the 60th anniversary of Doctor Who, and marketing wise, they've realised that Jodie isn't selling, and what they decided to do. Of all things, was that they decided to release these bears, these Doctor Who bears, and basically you get a Doctor Who, and you can get it like dressed like Tom Baker and things like that, right? And they're these cuddly little bears. So they were releasing Jodie's bear, and it wasn't doing very well. It had the rainbow shirt on, it had the jacket and all that. So they decided then that what they were going to do was release her bear with the David Tennant bear, right? So then they were like, the Tennant bear's doing all right by itself, but they've got this twin set, and it's not doing as well. So now they swapped out Jodie for Matt Smith's bear. Now it's selling. It's just they haven't. Marketing has realised that Jodie just isn't selling. And it just goes back to where Doctor Who is right now. And it's sad because actually they've made another decision as well, which I don't know, if this had... I'm guessing it had something to do with it, but I don't know entirely because I can't really say, can't really speak to it. But for the first time ever, the Doctor Who annual will not have the Doctor on the front. It's gonna have just the TARDIS. What do you want to say to that? I mean, what can you say about that? I mean, I know we're talking about Tennant's popularity here as well for Series 2, but I mean, when we're talking about Doctor Who's popularity, it's kind of a telltale sign, I think. When you
yeah, definitely. It's gone down the pan a bit, hasn't it? I think someone may even have flushed by now.
Well, I mean, I think it's been confirmed now that next year Jodie is leaving. And I think it was her agent that advised her on that, more than anything else. I don't know what to say.
My only worry with that is as unpopular with me as this series is, and I can only reiterate again, I've got no problem with Jodie Whittaker, but I've got a feeling they're going to replace Jodie with a tick box Doctor.
Oh, absolutely.
It's going to tick all the boxes. I don't want to get into the whole argument of what those boxes may be, because you don't need that sort of flack in your life. But it will be a tick box Doctor.
I just remember what had happened when we were watching. What was it, Praxeus? Was that the episode? And I made the comment about the fact that the gay men in it were only in there to be gay. And the amount of people that gave me flack, and none of the people that gave me flack for that turns out were gay. They were being defended, or they were defending the gay men in the episode without being gay themselves. It was just a case of
I think the term they use for that is white knighting or something, isn't it? You know, they're coming in and having. I remember it. I saw it. Because I do follow you on Twitter, and I did see it, and I was looking at it, and I was like, did you actually listen to what we were saying?
Did you watch the episode? I mean, but it's to get back to talking about David Tennant's popularity, though. I mean, as the series goes, this show was already number one on BBC One.
Yeah.
This show was already. I'm just gonna take a look at some of the numbers here.
At the time, this was up against the X Factor, and it was trouncing it.
I mean, it was, and we're talking. So use a little quote for the numbers here, and people can make out of this what they like, right? But at this moment in time, iPlayer was launched. You could watch Doctor Who anytime you liked. You didn't have to watch it on the Saturday night. You could have watched it anytime, at any point, whenever you felt like, within 30 days. That was the deal. You didn't have to watch it on the Saturday night. There was also Sky Plus, so you could have recorded it. You also had your own video stuff, your own DVRs and whatever, so you didn't have to actually watch Doctor Who when it went out live. There are lots of other methods and means and mediums whereby
the Pirate Bay.
You could have, yeah, absolutely. Look, Doctor Who is in the Guinness Book of World Records for being the most downloaded show illegally in history. It's in the Guinness Book of World Records. So there is so much more in ways of viewing this show other than just watching it live on BBC One. Okay? It was already in place. Everything that they attribute the low figures to today was already in place. Christmas Invasion, 9.84 million viewers. That's where it starts. The series then goes to 8.62. Tooth and Claw, 9.24. Next episode, 8.31. Then it drops a little bit for Girl in the Fireplace to 7.9, so it's still hanging around the 8 million viewer mark. It jumps back up, Rise of the Cybermen, to 9.2 million viewers. This is not anything other than displaying what must-see viewing means.
At the time, what's the UK population currently is 66 million. So you're looking maybe around the 60 million mark. 16 years ago. That's a sixth of the population. That's like 18% or 17%, say, of the entire population of the United Kingdom
watching the show. and then again, by the time you get to the end of the series, it's hovering around 8.1, 8.2 million. So, you're talking massive figures here. And again, there are other options. There are other channels. There's people who aren't into sci-fi. You've got all these other things that are against the show. And And there's no excuses for this, because people are turning around and saying, well, these viewing figures are because people don't watch TV the same way anymore. Bullshit. People watch good TV. Well, that's the end of it. I can't tell you, if it's must-see TV, it's must-see. And, you get people binge-watching stuff on Netflix these days. That doesn't stop it from... I remember what happened with bloody Cobra Kai. And look what happened there. The viewing figures for Cobra Kai were mental. And then they weren't releasing it. Which one was it? Because one of them... What show was it that they ended up releasing week by week? It was on Amazon. Because there was a big kick about it. And they were like, I think it was The Boys.
Yeah, it was the boys. Yeah, it was.
And there was a big kick about they should release it all at once so we can binge watch instead of releasing it week after week. Go check their viewing figures. Go check their viewing figures and then come back and tell me they were wrong.
Yeah, they've done the same with they did the same with Picard and the same with The Expanse, and both of those shows have got good. Regardless of what you might think of Picard and The Expanse, those shows have also got good viewing figures for what are really niche shows.
Yeah. And again, so it goes to show what must see means, because I'll guarantee you, the next season of Stranger Things, all right, that's going to land on Netflix, so they won't really release their viewing figures. But the fact that they're doing another season of Stranger Things probably means that it was pretty bloody good. And, because they throw in, oh my word, what was it last time? $65 million at a TV show for 8 episodes.
Yeah, I know it was a lot.
What?
But that is one of those shows. Believe it or not, I don't really watch TV. I've seen all the series so far of Stranger Things. They spend the money well in that program. That every cent that they spend on that ends up on the screen.
But I mean, again, you'd be talking about again the viewing, when people talk about the viewing figures on these shows and then turn around and say, well, people don't watch TV is like these. What are you on about? Where do you think they're getting these viewing figures from? Who do you think's calculating these viewing figures? Like, all
right. I don't watch telly like I used to. Right next to me, just there, is a Skybox. I haven't switched it on to watch anything. All I've got on there is Freeview now. It's not paying for channels I'm not watching. But it's about 4 or 5 years now since I've done that. But I pay to be able to record telly. So if my wife wants to record a program she might like, she can. I used to use it to record Doctor Who, so I could watch it. If it wasn't here to watch it live, I had it set up just in case I was a few minutes late, and then I could watch it when I wanted to. And normally I'd have the whole series on there once it had finished.
You know what a lot of people don't realise about viewing figures? They're not calculated on the night.
No, it's the was it? They published some figures on the overnights, didn't they? Which is where they add up people that have recorded it. Yeah.
And here's the thing: the overnights only give you an estimate, and it's an estimate of overnight figures. The consolidated is published 1 month after the show. They consolidate figures. Now, some people put down that the air date is 7 days, right? Because after 7 days, that's not how it works. The viewing figures are consolidated from all the data gathered within the 30 days. So, if you've watched it on TV, if you've recorded it, if you've gone onto iPlayer, that's all. It's all in the figures. So when you turn around and say, well, this episode of Doctor Who scored less than the lowest score in Sylvester McCoy episode, I'm going to tell you right now, those are shit figures. And if you've got any sort of argument against that, I can only call you an idiot. Because
I've got no argument.
Seriously, what can you possibly say against that? Because and this whole thing of people don't watch TV the way they used to. Yeah, they've turned it off. That's exactly, you're right. They don't watch it like they used to, because before they used to sit down and actually watch it. And now they're not watching it. They're watching something else instead. Why? Because they're not interested in the crap that they're shoveling out.
I mean that's it. I mean, when this series we've just been talking about, the second series of the new era. At that point, so with 2006, my oldest boy was 9 and my youngest was 6, and we used to sit down as a family to watch it. Four of us used to sit down as a family. When them two, as they got older, they tuned out a bit, and when the new one started, when Chris Chibnall took over and they brought in Jodie Whittaker, we had the first episode. We sat down and watched the family. Both of them were both at home. They both come down to watch it, and they were like, "Yeah, that weren't too bad. I thought it was pretty good. Some good moments in it." That was the only episode we watched together. They never came down to watch another one. So you know, all right, I know they're that much older now. They're in their 20s now, but they still.
It grips your interest. It grips your interest. It doesn't matter how old.
Yeah, it does.
It doesn't matter how old you are. If you make a damn good show that people are like, can you imagine what the excuse would have been for bloody Game of Thrones if that had nosedived? You know, what, we didn't make an interesting enough show. No, it's not. You know, it's such a good show that it maintained its viewing figures throughout. You know, you're gonna tell me
even though it did nosedive.
It did at the sort of series 8. But I mean, like, for the most part, I'm just gonna check something here, just as a defense of this, okay? So, just as a bit of a little bit of a defense, for the whole viewing figures argument, as the I don't know how much of a Friends fan you are.
Well. If I was to say to you, I think the best actor in the entire series is only in the first series, and he played Marcel. Maybe that'll give you an idea of how I feel about Friends. It was all right. It was a bit too.
It's a comedy.
Wasn't. Yeah. It's. I prefer. If I'm watching comedy, I prefer Blackadder and anything with Rick Mel and Ade Edmondson in. That's my kind of comedy. Red Dwarf, you know.
I've been watching Men Behaving Badly recently because it's on Netflix.
That's classic.
Yeah, that to me is a better version of Friends, I think. But
I mean, as far as them sort of comedies go, I think American comedy topped itself with Cheers, and I don't think it's ever got back there.
Well, just to give you some sort of idea here, I'm looking at the Comcast figures for Friends Reunion, which wasn't broadcast on terrestrial TV. It was only broadcast, I think it was on Sky One over here. And that drew over 5 million viewers. So that's on a channel that's subscription only, and it still drew more than Doctor Who. That's on a channel that's free to view. Right? And this was not even an episode of the TV show. This was on a show that I hadn't been on for a very, very long time, and it was more of a documentary about the show as opposed to anything else.
Yeah. You say free to view, but I think you'll find it's about £150 a year.
Yeah, you see what I'm saying? Like, you know, it's still, you know,
I know what you mean.
I mean, it still drew over 5 million, and that's just UK terrestrial. I have, what do we got here? Sky One has released the viewing figures. 5.3 million viewers. There we are. And that's on a subscription-based only channel. I couldn't tell you what the overall viewing figures are worldwide, but I'd be willing to bet it's probably a hell of a lot more.
I'd say so.
I
mean, you're right. It's not one of my favourite shows, but I know how popular it is. I mean, we do have the complete box set in this house that belongs to. I think it's my missus has got that. So it's the same thing with Two and a Half Men while Charlie Sheen was still in it. You know, it was a very successful show. It wasn't everyone's cup of tea, but it was a bloody successful program.
I'm just trying to get to HBO Max. Let's see if we go here. So, top 10 Nielsen. Oh, it's time. Oh. So, you want must-see TV? What do you think the HBO, the CBS Super Bowl LV February. Yeah. Okay. Readings number. Any idea or any guess as to what the viewing figures might have been for the Friends reunion?
What, worldwide?
No, on HBO. On CBS.
CBS. Right, so we're talking America here, aren't we now?
Yeah. Bear in mind. I want you to bear in mind that most of the programs going out on CBS tend to be around the 3.5 to 4 million viewers. That's the general range.
It's got to be 20 plus million, I would have said, for Friends.
I'm looking at the figure. It's 20.4.
Oh, well, there you go. That's not a bad guess. I was just working out how many people there are in America. How many people, roughly? Yeah. So it's a very similar sort of percentage then.
Not really. No. I mean, it's a lot higher. I mean, if you were looking at Jesus Christ, 17 years later, because that it was done 17 years after the show. HBO Max. I'm going to just brushing through this, but I'm seeing, like I said, your usual figures for a TV show on there is usually, 4 million viewers tends to be the sort of of the average rating for a TV show. Anything over 4 million tends to be considered great viewing figures for that channel. I don't know what to tell you. They do this one spin-off over there, and suddenly it's 20 million.
I wonder how many more it would have been if it had been an actual one-off episode as opposed to the cast sat on the sofa talking. I mean, it would have been astronomical, wouldn't it?
Or if they'd done just like 3 episodes, because it was like a 2-hour documentary type thing. So if they'd shot 3 episodes and done a 3-off minisode series, you can imagine that being kind of astronomical.
Yeah.
But again, it's worth mentioning when we're talking about these viewing figures that when we're talking about, again, we're going back to David Tennant's popularity here and where his popularity resides in the show. Man, David Tennant was still part of the 50th anniversary with Matt Smith.
Yep.
Possibly the biggest episode they've ever made.
He came back for that.
It's not only that, it cinematically released. Let's not forget that it's the only episode of Doctor Who that I know of that went into